The Smash community is one of gaming's most well-known esports communities. Even if you don't play the games themselves, you likely ran across a clip of someone getting 3-stocked by a Fox main on Final Destination. As you can guess by the sentence I just said, I do play the games myself. Although, while Smash is well known for its skilled players, it's equally well known for its toxicity and, well, you saw it coming, degeneracy. Many members of the Smash community over the years have been discovered as being terrible individuals. And no, I don't mean their usage of Steve in SmashUltimate. Many tales of players getting sexually involved with minors, rape, and just a lot of sexual misconduct. And with many of these players being the best of the best, it's safe to say this hasn't helped the game's community reputation all too much. Many of these allegations have been proved and massively set in stone. But that isn't the case with the player, or rather creator, we will be talking about today. RelaxAlax, or Alax Carducci, is a creator best known for his content on Nintendo games and overall discussing really obscure topics having to do with video games. But his most popular series of videos is undoubtedly Know Your Moves, a series largely focused on explaining the movesets and history of various Smash characters. But a lot of this is just preamble, as in 2019, a creator in the Smash circle, BobDunga, would come out with allegations against Alax claiming abuse during a relationship and him sexually taking advantage of her when she wasn't fully conscious. These allegations caused a massive uproar to say the least, as many began taking sides during this situation. With allegations like this, it very much looked like Alax could be facing the extinction, or rather end, of his career. That is, if the situation were ever resolved. As you see, in the wake of Alax's response, many began to toss the situation. And so now my question is why? Today, I attempt to answer that question for myself and you all watching comfortably in your rooms at home. Was the RelaxAlax situation truly a bunch of he said she said, or is there a lot more to the situation? I'm imagining this will start a huge war in my comment section, so please just keep it respectful, and remember this video won't be trying to solve the situation, instead documenting events for you all to form your own opinions. So without further ado, let's get to it. In July of 2020, BobDunga would take to Reddit to talk more about her abuser, aka Alax. This thread provided a lot of much needed context and evidence to support her claim of Alax taking advantage of her both physically and emotionally. The first time it was brought to my attention that I had with Alax was while we were in the car a few weeks later. He used that incident as a way of shaming me, which was a common thing he did throughout the relationship. He was spiteful, and if he ever caused any harm to me and then apologized, surely enough, a few days later, he would create a scenario where he tried to get me to be in the wrong. His ego was massive and his behavior was a weird tit for tat mentality he had. If he felt he was not in control of a situation, he would craft a scenario to paint me as a villain and have me apologize, therefore making him feel like he had more control of the relationship or had more leverage. She then goes on to mention how Alax commonly would use this situation as a way to shame/humiliate her. This apparently was when their text conversations began. Conversations she stated were already out there on the internet, but many who were fans of Alax tried to sweep under the rug as a way to protect him and save face. I did not consent to that, regardless of an apology or not. I am entitled to talk about my pain. You are a spoiled, malicious person. I did not consent either. We both did not consent. That is untrue. You were aware of the sex we had. I wasn't. I was drunk. You were too. You wanted to try that new position. Wait, okay then. I legit had no idea what was going on. Drunk people don't remember everything that happened enough to talk about it in detail. I was drunk. You were too. Every drunk person is different. These messages alone are definitive proof that something did in fact happen between the two, but are they definitive evidence of Alax taking advantage of her? Well, that's not something we can so easily answer. However, to further incriminate Alax, Raven, aka BobDunga, would state how Alax's friends were commonly used to spy on her and muddle up the narrative a bit, going on to quote one of them as saying, "That's just Alax, I tried to get him help." In addition to all of this, she stated that those same friends were used as a way for them to come to a quote-unquote compromise, claiming that this was again another instance of Alax trying to silence her and control the narrative. Raven, deciding she had enough, told Alax to stop reaching out to her, and the two stopped talking from there. In Raven's own words, no less than a few minutes after she cut all contact with Alax, she received a follow request from a Twitter account by the name of Conversations with Chloe. Chloe, according to Raven, is the name of one of Alax's older sisters. This was the lead into her going over the many times where those close to Alax were presumably sent to spy and gather information on her. Alax and a lawyer of his would deny this over on Twitter in a very long statement, but the only thing relevant to us right now is this sentence. "The claims I sent my friends and family to monitor the other party's Twitter are false," and that's most most of the things Alax has been accused of. However, if you wish to hear about almost everything else in its entirety, I will link the full twit longer, which goes over a lot of small yet important things regarding Alax in the description. To end off her thread, Raven would say this: I don't want to say much else on it. It's tiring, it's breaking my brain, and taking me back to that place I was in last year when all of this went unnoticed. I just want to be supportive to anyone still going through this right now in the Smash community, but I thought it was important to weigh in on my experience and really discuss his admittance, then quick denial, then sudden amnesia when he realized I was onto him. With Raven coming out with such a long detailed thread, giving evidence and context to support her claims, it of course wouldn't take long for Alax to respond in his very own format, presumably to debunk all claims being levied against him. So, did this video do just that, or did it crash and burn like so many others? Well, let us find out. In July of 2020, nearly a year after Raven's initial twit longer and only 4 days after her thread over on Reddit, Alax would respond in his own video appropriately titled Addressing the Allegations and My Side. In the video, Alax lays out a lot about his side of the entire situation, going into detail about his and Raven's relationship, as well as critiquing Raven's approach to this whole thing. For starters, he talks about how Raven uses the at the time social climate to make others believe her and feel bad if they don't.
Claims were brought up at opportune times, not relating to any change between contact we had, but it aligned with the social climate at the time, and I think that timing is extremely important.
This then leads into him recounting the night Raven claimed she was sexually mistreated.
It was getting late and the party was disbanding, so I called an Uber. We got in, took us back to our house. We went inside and then we went upstairs to my room. This is when the claim allegedly happened. I will go into detail, but not explicitly for respect. She laid in bed and then I did as well. I was under the impression she wanted to sleep, but then she initiated by kissing me and we continued into. From here, she consented to everything we did, both audibly and through her actions. I had no reason to believe that this was different from any of the previous times we had. I had no reason to believe that she was being taken advantage of. She wasn't in a dangerous position. She could have left and stopped at any time if she wanted. She was participating and we both went at our own pace.
This so far lines up with Raven's story, except now it's from Alax's perspective. The way the two describe the night is very different from each other. While Raven insists she never consented due to her being drunk on the night it happened, Alax, who can somewhat remember the night, insists that yes, Raven did indeed consent to the actions that took place, and himself claims he was drunk as well. Alax then goes into the conversation the two had the very next day about everything that happened the night prior. He says that when the topic of the they had the night prior came up, Raven claimed to have not remembered that happening at all, which lines up with the story so far.
It was when I brought her home later when we talked about the night and we discovered she didn't remember what happened in the bedroom, and this embarrassed her and made her feel uncomfortable. I had nothing to lie to her about because I didn't realize there was anything to lie about. If she remembered the argument in great detail, why wouldn't she have remembered everything that occurred? To me, there was no difference in her behavior at those points. We talked about this, and I understood she felt uncomfortable and bothered by not being able to remember, and I felt bad because she was feeling discomfort, so we agreed after our discussion to be more careful from then on forward. She never labeled it as anything other than this to me.
After this, the two apparently agreed to be more careful going forward, and that was that. He used this as a way of showing that this was not a new occurrence of them doing actions like this, and that it wasn't the last either. He even debunks the claims of him shaming her during this conversation by stating that he was very gentle with her upon realizing she didn't remember. Now, I will be skipping over this next portion of the video as it is similar to things Raven laid out over in her twit longer, and with me trying to be fair and unbiased, I feel it is only fair that I don't lay out things Alax called out regarding Raven during the relationship. Don't worry, it's nothing too serious, just typical relationship things. However, the segment after this is very important in understanding why and what drove Raven to come out with these accusations against Alax. As the timeline of events goes, Alax and Raven started dating around June to August of 2018. The relationship then lasted to around March and April of 2019, which is when the breakup happened due to things happening behind the scenes. Raven's initial twit longer was released on May 31st of the same year, around the time that the two had gone their separate ways. Alax states that around this time he was on a trip to Japan and had no knowledge of all of this happening, and states that when he was informed, this was the first time he had heard about the incident being claimed as or sexual misconduct. Shortly after all of this, Alax would get on a call which he claimed he and both Raven recorded, although I can't find any archives of the recording. This call then apparently led to the text conversation from before, except now Alax is adding a bit more context that Raven apparently left out. I would like to meet up and talk about everything. I believe we both deserve that right now. Raina came and told me you talked and agreed you'd like an apology in person, and I'll happily meet up, go over everything, and leave where we both can move on and be happy. I do feel I am owed an apology for how a lot of things went down. I was idealized for the beginning of the relationship and manipulated and mistreated throughout. I understand you are only reaching out because you are afraid I will finally talk about everything. Alax then went on to issue her an apology over text, which I must add isn't him admitting to sexually abusing Raven, but rather him apologizing for the way she felt after it all had taken place. The conversation then continues into the two arguing over a poster Raven had made, and her saying she won't talk if it is returned to her. No one threatened you. I just said I will 100% put it to bed if the poster is back with me. Nah, you did the same by saying, "Kay, I apologize, so don't tweet it, okay?" So that was my condition. This is so stupid. You really want people to know what happened to us over a poster I made? The reason Alax just didn't give Raven her stuff back was because, as he put it in his video, he had thrown it out due to him being upset she was bad-mouthing him on Twitter and smearing his name to flip the narrative. Bad-mouthing is putting it bluntly. To end off his response, Alax debunks the claims that he sent anyone from his circle to spy and harass Raven. As he puts it, his patrons had never harassed her to his knowledge, and the claim of him quote-unquote sending others to harass her is based on this simple screenshot where he can be seen telling those in his server where he's been and why he's been absent recently. And as for his sister following her on Twitter, Alax claims that this was due to her as well as his friends wanting to see the claims being levied against him. He then followed this up by showing screenshot evidence of Raven reaching out to his friends over on Facebook, implying that she is committing the crime she accused him of doing himself. And that's it for Alax's response. If you'd like to hear more about the nitty gritty of their relationship and wish to hear both sides about how the other party acted during said relationship, I will leave both links to Alax's video as well as Raven's twitlonger in the description. I hope this video explained the situation enough for you all so that you can form your own opinions. Since this whole incident went down, many still take sides to this day and choose to believe either side. Raven and Alax have since then moved on from this whole thing, it would seem, and I feel that is personally for the better. My final verdict on this whole thing is that the situation is still likely a bunch of he said she said, with neither side really being in the wrong. But then again, I ask you all to form your own opinion. But anyways, with all that being said, here's some more videos of mine I think you'll really enjoy. I've been Just Quilted, and until next week, later.